Says it's going live, and you're live. Perfect. All right. So YouTube is streaming. Hi, Pong. Oh, I can see everybody's stuff. Oh, so perfect. All right. I know that my restream thing wasn't like doing what it was supposed to do. All right. Well, welcome, you guys. It's been over a month since I streamed last time, and we did some seed saving. Pull this out. That's just some butter I melted for our pie filling recipe that we're going to be doing. So as I was saying, well, it's almost Thanksgiving, and now is the time people are going to be making pies. Normally, I just buy my pie crust because I'm lazy, but because I am restricted from going into stores, I am making my own pie crust. So I've found a pie crust that is a butter pie crust, and I was reading some pie crust blogs, and so there's a couple things that I'm going to be trying to see if hopefully we can get a good nice crust on our pie. And one of the things that they said was put it on the lowest rack in your oven. So I have adjusted all of that. And then the second thing it said was to use a high quality creamy butter from Europe. And so I've got Europe, and then I've got I placed an order for some Amish butter, so I'll be picking that up tomorrow. And so hopefully when I get that, it does have salt in it, and I typically don't like to buy salted butter, but just because it's Amish butter, I know it's been turned well. I'm gonna try it and see how that works out. So I have some Kerrygold Irish butter. And yeah, it's a little bit more spendy, but I like to have good quality butter on hand when I need it. And a lot of the times I'll just buy whatever our local butter is. But yeah. All right, I'm missing some things. Hi, Coffee Roasting Bear, welcome. He's waiting for another screen grab. Of course he is. Holmes is always on the prowl for that grab their hands. Oh, that's the Pepe I need Pung to paint. The one with coffee. Yeah, that's definitely for sure. I'm excited. I haven't checked my mail in like 4 days. Pumpkin pie, yum. Hi, Fred Washington. Welcome. Good to see you. And do a close up when you shape the crust edge. I will. I'm screen recording right now. It's all good. Should I give him a gratuitous hand rubbing? Maybe later. I'm gonna have to rub my hands at some point. Okay, so first things first, I'm gonna do a pie crust. And the pie crust that I picked, like I said, has butter in it. You can use ones that have Crisco, but I tend to stay away from that. I don't really like that. You can also use lard. Like I've used bear fat in the past. I've used lard. I wouldn't recommend using coconut oil because the melting point of coconut oil is so low. It's 76 degrees that it turns into a liquid, so I wouldn't recommend that. But butter is definitely something that's great to use, and so that's what I'm going to be working on today. So first things first, I'm going to throw some ice in my bucket here. One of the keys to a good pie crust is keeping your crust really, really cold as you're forming it. So this is just water and ice. I'm gonna let it sit so it gets nice and chilled. I pulled this out of, I just already cubed up all my butter, so that's ready to go. And then I'll have salt, and we're actually going to use apple cider vinegar as well. So The reason why I chose the one with apple cider vinegar is they said that the apple cider vinegar is going to help stop the gluten process from making your crust tough, because you want to have a flaky crust. So I'm trying this one out to see if that works. Europe. Yes, Pun, Europe. One day, right? I'm already rubbing my hands. Hi, Copper. In all seriousness, your stream keeps freezing. Audio is good. Is it really freezing a bunch? Let me see what YouTube looks like. I don't know. I can't really see. All right. Well, I think my phone, I'll just keep watching on my phone if it doesn't do well. I'm going to have to hire a nerd to help me. For you, it is anyways. If anybody else can reply, let me know. I'm probably going to have to do some research. Okay. We'll work through it today. So I always keep my, I just bought 60 more pounds of flour because I always like to have flour on hand. And I just keep it in my 5-gallon bucket. In my 5-gallon bucket, I have this came with my bread machine. It's a little cup measure. So that's 2.5 cups. This is going to be for a 2-crust recipe. And this will need to be chilled for 1 hour to 4 days. You are fuzzy, but I can still watch and learn. Hi, Stacy. Welcome from YouTube. All right. So we've got that. We're going to put our salt in, and then we're going to put our butter in. And we're doing, so that's 2.5 cups of flour. We're going to do a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And we're going to do 3/4 cup of butter. So I'm just putting this in a bowl. I'm using my hands. I'm not using a food processor. My food processor got damaged by falling off of a shelf, so I don't have one right now, but this is perfectly acceptable. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start breaking up all of my butter chunks so that they're all covered in flour and salt. Audio is good. All right, awesome. So the thing I changed about this is I'm actually streaming from my laptop, and I'm just using my phone just to kind of watch. It does look grainy, but it's not skipping on me. So I might have to hire Shadow to help me figure out what's going on with my computer. And so this is going to take a little bit of time. You don't want to rush it. You don't want to get it too warm. You just want to incorporate all of your butter, kind of mix it in so it's a crumb. Looks crummy. And so the pumpkin pie recipe that I got. So I had mentioned that I haven't been to Trader Joe's in a while because they were very militant about wearing masks, and I'm not about that. And I just love their pumpkin pie. And so I tried to find a copycat Trader Joe's pumpkin pie recipe online. So I found one. It's just the way that they make it, it's not like any of the other ones that I've had. It's just really has a really good spice flavor in it. It has really good pumpkin flavor in it. And so I'm hoping that I can get that together. My hubby blew up my KitchenAid. Oh my gosh. I would cry a little bit. I took my KitchenAid this year to get fixed because the one of the things wasn't working properly on it. It wouldn't start. So I took it in, they fixed it. It was like maybe $80, and they're like, this thing's gonna run for a while. For the record, you're saying Shadow is a nerd, correct? On the record, yeah. He's a nerd in a good kind of way. We need nerds. Okay. So now, hopefully you guys can see what it looks like, but it's nice and crummy. So that's all good. All right. And I have my ice water here, so it's starting to cool down. I only need a half of a cup. I'll pop those ice cubes out of there. And then I need to have 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. And I'm just reusing my half teaspoon so that I'm not dirtying up all of everything here. And I'm going to throw that right into my water mixture. And then I use a fork. All right, cool. Got the screen record. Screen gravel. I'm glad that makes you happy. And then I'm just going to start pouring this in and form it into a ball. And we're not kneading any of this. We're not going to be working with it too much. We just want it to form into a ball. And I may need to add a little bit more water, just depending, but we're going to make that judgment here in a second. Whoop. I wore white because we're dealing with flour today. All right, and I don't know if it's probably because I'm not measuring it like exact like I should be, but this is how I do. So now I'm just going to form this into a ball, and then once it's formed into a ball, I am going to separate it into 2. And then use some saran wrap, and we're going to just roll these into 2 balls and then form them into a disc and throw them in the pool. So you need to chill these. The reason why we're not going to be kneading this a bunch is because we do not want the butter to kind of break apart and start like forming into the flour. And we don't want to work too much of that gluten in there. Otherwise, it'll create a tougher crust than that flaky one we're looking for. Screw gravel. All right. And our next order of business. So I've separated them here. I'm going to take out some of my plastic food wrap. If you can get your hands on a big one like this, I highly recommend it. I use mine all the time. I've had this one for maybe 2 years, maybe longer. I think maybe longer. They last forever, so it's well worth it to buy that. Okay. It's not really disc shaped, but it'll be okay. And the same thing with this. I'm just going to roll it up. So now we have 2 more. I'm not going to be using these. I'll use these later in a different whatever, but I did make this last night and I probably should have pulled it out because it's nice and cool. All right. Clean up this glass here. Okay. Still with me here? And you should have a rolling pin. I like this one. They make them in marble, in granite, which are nice. You can throw those into your fridge, and then that will keep it cool so it's not heating up your dough too much. And then they do make, like if you have a granite or a marble countertop, you can also just, that would be great because you can kind of keep them cool. I just maybe put something icy on the top to keep that a nice, cool, whatever. And but I like my wood one. I don't like the ones that have the rolly thing on the center. I like this solid one, just in case you need to whap somebody. And another thing that I have is I just have my flour here. Move some of this stuff out of the way. All right. Hi, Leon. Thank you for the follow. All right. I guess it doesn't matter. Okay. So I'm just going to throw a little bit of flour on here so you guys can see that. Because sometimes you need to whap somebody. You might need to. So we've got my flour here. I'm just going to throw it on my countertop. This is nice and cool. I don't even know if it's going to work all that well. But we're going to start working it. Katie's like, that's right, that's right. Is he still here? Be funny. Could we laugh? Okay. So the great thing about when it's cold is you can apply enough heat to every area that you need to have heat added to in order to kind of start molding it. And this is not like biscuits for sure. Biscuit dough is a lot different because you're going to want to add those flaky layers by folding it in half and then getting it done that way. And some people are really particular about how thin it is. They'll actually go to measure it. In fact, you can see on my pastry cutter, there's a little ruler on there so that you can do your cuttings as you need to. Okay. And I'm going to be so happy if this turns out to be a delicious, I haven't tried this recipe yet, but I'm going to be really, really satisfied if this recipe turns out to be like a super winner because I really wanted to get into making my own pie crust. And, you know, obviously I was buying out of convenience. And now I'm just having to force myself into making it. I mean, I've made like dough tops, but not the whole thing. These can also be frozen, so you can get a bunch of little aluminum sheets to freeze. You guys want to see this? It's my pie plate. It's a little stoneware pie plate. How many Rogans? So slap. This is like almost 2 Rogans. It's only 6 inches. It doesn't make the cut for 2. It's only 1. Alright. That will be good. So you can see it's pretty large here. I'm going to move that so you guys can see. It's pretty large now. You can roll it on your rolling pin. I don't necessarily like to do that. I like to fold it in half and then fold it in quarters. Pull it up that way. And then lay it in here like that. Hi, Slap. Welcome to the stream. Okay. I'm chopping my face off here. So then I just unroll it out like this. And then we can kind of mess around with where we want it in our pie plate. This one's a little deeper than the one that I'm going to be using, but that's fine. And my pie making ability, like my pie tending skills are very novice. So I'm right there with you guys if you haven't done this before. And now I'm just going to go and trim the excess off the ends. And when Huckleberry was little, he would take the little ends and play with them, like Play-Doh. which is fun for kids to do. So if you have little children, the excess dough that you have here is a great thing for them to play with. There's enough gluten in it that they get a good form. Okay. So that's that. Yeah, only trim. I do not clip my dough. You'll know if your dough isn't done correctly if it doesn't fold nicely like that. Yeah, I'm really fortunate with this recipe too, and so I'm hoping that it turns out. It tastes pretty good. I tasted the raw dough just to see. Now for this, we're going to be doing. We're actually going to be working with this one because I chilled it, but you can see I went around and I gave it a little crimp. And then I didn't cook this. We're going to not cook this one, and which is like baking it before you put the ingredients in, but I'm not going to do that. Just going to fold this over so we have enough crust to kind of make our little decorations, our little crimp on the end. So it looks pretty and presentable. Okay, so this is not going to look super 100% pretty. That's just the start of it. And then the next thing you do is you're going to go through like this, and you're just going to crimp it in between your fingers and just kind of mold it that way. And you'll just kind of go all over sides here. I don't know if you guys can see me do it. Let's see if I do that. Did you see that, Faye? That's what I'm doing, Rusky. I just started baking 2 years ago, so now I'm an expert, much like Sienna. Thanks, Slap. That's awesome. Theory? Theory. All right, and then I like to kind of press it down a little bit so it's pretty sturdy on the ends. But now we've got our little crimp. It looks like a little flower, and we can fill this up. So this is pretty deep dish compared to the one that I'm going to be using for the rest of this. But I might put buttermilk in here, like a buttermilk pie. So I'm going to throw this into the fridge so that it gets nice and cool. And that is our pie crust part of the lesson today. There are so many different ways you can do a pie crust. This is a double recipe, so you can do like a little design on the top, and there's so many different things you can do with it. Just kind of choose your own adventure, choose your own pie adventure. Nicely done. Thank you. All right, now for the second part. So the filling, pumpkin pie filling. Um, I bought 2 pie pumpkins at the farm, and if you have planted them in your garden, chances are you have a bunch of um, sugar pie pumpkins. If that's what you grew, they do like to produce. And I made some pumpkin corn chowder last night, which that recipe is really, really amazing. I highly recommend that one. It's just kind of a great way to have a somewhat, I mean, it's a little bit sweet, but it's a savory dish that you can serve at Thanksgiving. And um, so I have, this is the leftover that I have of it, and hopefully it's enough to make at least 1 pie. So the way that I do my pie pumpkins is so sugar pie pumpkins are really tiny like this. They'll say sugar pie pumpkin or just pie pumpkin when you're planting them so that you know that that's what you're getting. And there's a few ways you can do this. You can cook it in your oven. I have an instant pot, and that's how I like to do my pumpkins. So I'll just trim the top off so that it sets neatly in there. You'll want to use your trivet to kind of steam it, but it takes about 15 minutes. The one I had to cook it a little bit longer because it was a little bit thicker skinned. But so that one's probably about 18 minutes, but it's just a pressure cooker, and you're pressuring everything and steaming it basically so that it's ready to go. And the skin will just peel off, so you can just peel that off, and then you take all the seeds out, and I have mine sitting here. I put them in some Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning, and so I'll be roasting those later. So those are just getting incorporated with that delicious goodness. And then you'll take all the seeds out and put them in your blender, and then you'll get your pumpkin puree. I also, I cleaned out my Instant Pot of any water or anything that was left over in there, and then I set it on slow cook, and I slow cooked it for probably about 4 hours to help remove any of the excess water that was in there from blending it. And so that makes it really easy to do. But like I said, you can also do that in your oven. You can just cut it apart, clean it out, and do it that way, which I'll probably do this one that way, just so that I can save the seeds from this one, so that I can distribute those pumpkin seeds for growing next year to anybody who's wanting any of those. And yeah, so that's how I got my pumpkin puree. Usually I buy it in a can. They don't recommend you home can it because of bacteria that can grow in it. I'm not entirely certain of that, but it's just as easy. And I only eat pumpkin really during pumpkin season. And if I want it outside of pumpkin season, then I'll freeze it or just buy a can of pumpkin. So there's those things. But typically when it's not fall, I'm not really craving pumpkin. So. Okay. So as I mentioned before, this is a Trader Joe's copycat pie filling recipe. It calls for 1 can, which is typically, I want to say, 8 ounces. Maybe more. I think it's 15 ounces, actually. So that you don't have a soggy crust. Hold my juice box. Okay. Hold my juice box. Okay. Okay. All right, this is a half cup, so that is, I think, 4 ounces. And nobody's gonna get that gamma. Faye. Slap. All right, so that's a cup and a half. And then I think we'll be right at the perfect amount here, so that's great. Now you do. Thank you. Okay, cool. So we're gonna mix this with some brown sugar, and it's half a cup of brown sugar. And normally I make my own brown sugar, but I saw that I had this for some reason in my pantry. But normally what I do is I have molasses. And so I'll take my white sugar and I'll mix it with molasses. You can see I need to go get some more because I use it quite a bit. Done and done. Thank you, Slap. You're the best. And when you measure your brown sugar, just kind of want to pack it, not behind a dumpster. And we're going to mix these two together. Shortness for the win. All right, so we've got this mixing together. I'm going to get this nice and incorporated. Now, you do not want, I would not recommend putting this in your KitchenAid and mixing it this way, only because if you do that, you are going to probably get air pockets. And so when you go to pour the custard pumpkin pie filling into your pie mix, you're going to get bubbles that pop up, and you want it to be nice and smooth. So I'm using just a spoon. I'm not going to be using a whisk. There's no need for that. You can probably use a spatula, but this spoon will work just as fine. Just making sure that this is nice and incorporated into my pumpkin mixture. Non-dumpster pie. Just seems like it would be better for the soul. Yeah, 100%. All right, so now that we've got our brown sugar and our pumpkin puree mixed together, we're going to add our milk, butter, spices, vanilla, and salt. And it calls for evaporated milk, but I don't have any evaporated milk on hand, which is like probably a common thing in most households. And so you can sub using half and half. You can use regular milk, just pour however much you need, and then increase it by I think 60% and then cook it down. You'll have to look up the recipe on doing that. Or you can use whipping cream. And so there's a few other ways that you can sub that. Just don't use sweet condensed milk because that's not the same thing. So sweet condensed milk is the milk that has the sweetness in it, and evaporated milk is just evaporated milk. It's just with less water in it. It's kind of cook the water out of it. So we're gonna add our milk in here. No, that's a good question, and I think a lot of people kind of get those two things confused. And the sweet condensed milk has a lot of sugar in there, and you can use it to make caramel. You just take the jar, you take the can, and just put it in a pot and boil it for 3 hours, and then you'll have caramel. So that's a pretty cool trick, but yeah, that's just in case you don't have any evaporated milk on hand, which, you know, it's probably an ingredient it's nice to have on hand when you're doing baking like this. This is a stick of butter that I had in my oven, and I'm going to be adding that into here. Okay. And then we're going to need 2 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice. And I go through one of these probably three times every 3 years. Like I use it quite a bit. I like to use it in place of recipes that require cinnamon. But here we're actually using pumpkin pie spice for real pumpkin pie. Another thing that I like to do is add pumpkin pie spice to my French toast. So, Ready Bear! So we're doing 2 teaspoons, so it's quite a bit. Pumpkin pie spice, 2 teaspoons, so it's quite a bit. Pumpkin pie spice has cinnamon, ginger, lemon peel, nutmeg, cloves, and cardamom in it. So if you like the pumpkin pie spice flavor, it's a nice thing to use as an alternative to nutmeg and cinnamon in your French toast recipes, or if you're making cinnamon rolls or any, like I said, any wood place that requires cinnamon. Rusty, how's my sweet birdie doing? Okay. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to add vanilla. Now, if you can get your hands on it, please do yourself a favor and get some really good Mexican vanilla. Like this came from Mexico. I always ask my son if he's like, what souvenir do you want me to get you from Mexico? And I'm like, please get me some vanilla. So I've gotten a couple of them. This is my last one that I got from him, but it's a larger jar. They do last me a while, but you guys, I'm telling you, like nothing beats the scent of Mexican vanilla. It just smells so good. And it just adds a great flavor to your baked goods. If you're a baker, definitely this vanilla. I've even tried to make my own vanilla, but the way that they make this, it's a long process in Mexico, and it's divine. Like, it just smells great. All right, and then we're going to add a pinch of salt. And I stocked up on salt this year, you guys. Okay, I'm going to get this nice and mixed together. Yes, like aged, I don't know what they do to it, but I know that they have all the vanilla beans and they let them sit in there and they like do like a where they back and forth. I have no idea like how it's actually manufactured. Somebody explained it to me, and I was like, it just smells really good. It tastes really good. But there's just really nothing like it. And I know people rave about the Madagascar vanilla, but Mexican vanilla is just so divine and heavenly. Yeah, maybe. I am not entirely certain, but they know what they're doing for sure. Okay, so now I have this really beautiful pumpkin-y mixture. It's got some butter in it, so we've got that oil. We've got some milk in it. Got our spices, our salt, and our sugar in there. And so our next thing is going to be adding our eggs in there. And this is where you don't want to overbeat it. So we're adding 2 eggs, just 2 large eggs, and then we're going to add 1 egg yolk. And to do that, you just take your shell, you cut it in half, and then you just kind of go back and forth until you get all the egg white out of there, which is going to be great because we can use this egg white for our pie crust. Get it that beautiful golden color. And this is why you won't whisk it. You're just going to want to fold it in gently. So this one has it doesn't say. It just says vanilla bean extract. It doesn't say what the alcohol content is. I have no idea. Slap. If we can find out, that would be cool. Aged longer with less alcohol. Yeah, it's pretty heavenly. Okay. So we're just going to incorporate this in here, and we're folding it gently. We're not being radical with it. We don't want to beat it up into anything. We just want it to kind of get mixed in here. If you use a whisk, you stand a chance to adding air into the eggs, and we're not wanting that at all. So what kind of things do you like to bake, Slap? Like, what thing do you bake for the holidays? Hi, Native. Cookies. Chocolate chip cookies? Butter cookies? Oh, that sounds good. I'm just making sure that it's all incorporated, that we're all good. Looks delicious. All right. My bad, that's what she was making yesterday. Oh no, I made it earlier today. This is the pumpkin pie filling. So we have our pie crust. I'm gonna throw my parchment in on my sheet pan. And I have this on the lowest rack in my, the bottom there. I don't know if you can see them. Hook the bottom there with and add it in. Okay. Peanut butter with some Hershey Kisses. I'm not a big fan of peanut butter, but I can appreciate that. I would make that. I still would make it with the peanut butter. I'm not that against it, you guys. All right. So now we have this, and I'm gonna get a little bit fancy on you guys. I'm so sorry. However, and it's a pie crust shield. So I'm just gonna take this and we're gonna put it over the top here. And hopefully that protects the pie crust from getting too burnt. Okay. And now I'm not going to pull this out too much because I don't want to push it too much. But we're going to gently. Okay. And then I'm gently going to right in an hour, and I'll check it probably here shortly. Took me a minute to figure out what the Turkish turkey was saying, but they make me a mad for a reason. Yeah, I figured it was probably nothing good. I don't know what they're saying. So, all right, guys. Well, that is what I am doing today. I'm actually going to be doing more. I'll probably be doing. We'll be going to my washer and dry my dishwasher, but whatever. Thank you for. See if I can bring you guys. Hopefully it doesn't like screw you guys all up. So yeah, you can see I'm still working on my front door here. But like all of this is done. And then I'm still working on my hallway, but it's pretty much all done. So it's all uniform. You decorated them. Yeah, you're getting it. And then it's really cool because this used to be, so my living room used to be carpeted, which, so I'm really happy about that.